Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we dive into the timeless world of the Washington quarter dollar, a coin that carries not only the face of an American founding legend, but also the weight of nearly a century of history, political shifts, wartime metal shortages, artistic controversies, and unexpected hidden rarities that turned a simple 25-cent piece into a treasure tucked inside pockets, drawers, jars, and forgotten boxes across American households and beyond. And as we begin this cinematic journey, I want you to imagine the early 1930s, America struggling through the Great Depression, uncertainty gripping the nation, banks collapsing, unemployment rising, and yet within this storm came an idea that a coin could be more than money. It could be a symbol of unity, of strength, and of a vision carved into metal. So when the United States prepared to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington in 1932, Congress faced a choice: commemorate him through a $50 as originally planned, or create a brand new quarter design that would permanently replace the standing Liberty quarter that people had come to love. And after long debates, political pressure, and the belief that Washington deserved a widely circulating tribute, the quarter dollar became the chosen canvas, which opened the door for one of the most important design competitions in American coinage history, where sculptors from across the nation submitted their ideas. Yet it was Laura Garden Fraser, one of the most talented and respected sculptors of her time, who created a breathtaking portrait of Washington that many historians still argue is the most elegant and powerful depiction ever made. But despite winning the competition, despite the judges praising her design, and despite many expecting her to be the first woman to design a circulating U.S. coin, her masterpiece was rejected. Not because of artistic flaws, but because the Treasury Secretary Andrew Mellon simply preferred the design by John Flanagan, and that political decision shaped the face of the quarter for decades, leading to the Washington portrait we all recognize today, a design carved with sharp cheekbones, a stoic gaze, and a pose inspired by classic neoclassical sculpture, placed proudly on a new coin that would circulate through every American hand. And when the first Washington quarters rolled out of the Philadelphia Mint in 1932, struck in 90% silver and 10% copper, they weren't just coins, they were symbols of national pride, and collectors immediately started examining mint marks, studying strike quality, and noticing that San Francisco and Denver produced lower mintages that year, especially the elusive 1932D and 1932S, which later became key dates worth surprising amounts of money. And as these quarters entered daily life, they traveled through grocery stores, bus stations, barbershops, farms, railroads, and diners, becoming part of American culture in a way few coins ever had. While behind the scenes, the U.S. Mint refined its striking techniques, updated dies, and fought constant problems with die erosion, weak strikes, and shoulder details fading over time, especially on coins struck in the mid-1930s. And as the 1940s began, the world entered World War II, economies shifted, silver supplies tightened. And yet the Washington quarter continued to be minted in 90% silver, circulating alongside wartime ration stamps and defense tokens, until finally, by the early 1960s, rising silver prices made it impossible to keep minting quarters with precious metal content, causing people to hoard older silver quarters in huge quantities, stuffing them into jars and bags the moment they realized that the metal value alone was becoming too high. And by 1965 the United States changed the composition forever, removing silver entirely and replacing it with a clad structure of copper sandwiched between cupronickel layers, creating a new sound, a new color, and a new chapter in the coin's long life, while collectors continued searching for transitional errors, striking misalignments, and the rare 1965 silver planchet mistakes that sometimes slipped into circulation unnoticed. And as decades rolled forward, the quarter saw design tweaks, mint mark relocations, slight modifications to Washington's hair details, changes in rim thickness, and improvements in engraving techniques. But through all of this, the coin remained a familiar icon in pockets everywhere, until astonishingly in 1999 the Washington quarter underwent one of the greatest transformations in U.S. coin history when the state quarters program began, a monumental change that produced 50 unique designs honoring every state, turning ordinary pocket change into a cultural phenomenon as millions of Americans, children and adults alike, eagerly collected every new state quarter, creating albums, books, maps, and displays. And this massive popularity encouraged people to revisit older Washington quarters, re-examining designs from 1932 through the 1990s, bringing new attention to errors, varieties, toning effects, double dies, and minting anomalies. And as new collectors enter the hobby, rare silver issues and early mint-marked pieces skyrocketed in demand, while researchers revisited forgotten production notes from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, discovering fascinating details about master hubs, die polishing methods, re-engraving practices, and minting technology evolution. all contributing to a richer understanding of the Washington Quarter's legacy as one of the most important and widely recognized coins in U.S. history. As we move deeper into the story of the Washington Quarter, the narrative becomes even richer because every decade added new layers of evolution, metal composition debates, artistic controversies, and minting experiments that shaped the coin into a canvas of American identity. And when the bicentennial celebration of 1976 arrived, the nation once again placed enormous cultural significance on the quarter, choosing Jack L. R's colonial drummer design to replace the eagle reverse for a limited time, and this drummer boy quarter became one of the most widely cherished commemorative coins ever released, flooding circulation and sparking collectors to search for varieties like the Type 1 and Type 2, striking differences, where subtle changes in lettering thickness created unexpected desirability among numismatists, and while millions were saved, people rarely realized that proof strikes, silver sets, and specific mint-marked versions carried unique numismatic stories. And after the bicentennial excitement faded, the quarter returned to its traditional eagle reverse but with subtle die changes. Yet by the 1980s the mint faced new challenges as die varieties such as double dies, overpolished dies, die cracks, filled mint marks, and off-center strikes grew more frequent, creating a treasure-hunting environment in circulation that people still enjoy today, especially with well-known anomalies like the 1983 double die reverse, the 1984 spiked chin, and various filled P or filled D mint marks that occurred due to clogged dies. But what truly changed the fate of the quarter forever came in 1999 when the State Quarters program launched, instantly turning a historically stable series into the most collected coin program in American history, inspiring millions to check their change every day, filling mapboards, coin tubes, collector sets, and teaching an entire generation the excitement of coin hunting. And this massive interest triggered a cultural revival around the Washington portrait, the eagle, the clad composition, and the earlier silver issues, pushing collectors to study mint records, analyze strike pressure differences from year to year, examine how die polishing affected hair strands, cheek contours, and the shape of Washington's neckline, and all of this added tremendous depth to the coin's legacy. But what many people didn't realize is that the mint was simultaneously planning the next evolution, leading to 2009's District of Columbia and Territories quarters, followed by the America the Beautiful series in 2010, which replaced the eagle reverse for more than a decade. But even through these changes the obverse still carried Washington's portrait, occasionally modified, sometimes deepened, sometimes sharpened, and even redesigned in 2022 under the American Women Quarters program, which finally used Laura Garden Fraser's original 1932 design after 90 years of delay, bringing justice to the artist who should have been honored from the beginning. And when her elegant portrait replaced the Flanagan design on the obverse, the coin entered a new emotional era, merging past artistic battles with modern sensibilities, allowing collectors to view the Washington Quarter not merely as currency but as a timeline of American ideals and artistic expression, stretching from the Depression to modern times. And throughout these decades the coin's journey involved minting pressure tests, planchet preparation improvements, annealing developments, alloy ratio experiments, and inspection upgrades using digital microscopes, each of which subtly influenced rim thickness, denticle clarity, and overall strike sharpness across different mints. And because of these small differences, certain dates struck at Denver showed stronger rims, whereas some Philadelphia strikes appeared weaker. San Francisco proofs displayed glass-like mirror fields with frosted devices thanks to modern frosting techniques, and enhanced uncirculated versions brought new texture patterns never seen in older strikes, and all these advancements gave collectors new ways to evaluate rarity, search for specific errors, identify repunched mint marks from earlier decades, or detect coins with rotated dies, broad strikes, clipped planchets, missing clad layers, or transitional metal mistakes, all of which added mystery and value to what many people still think is just an ordinary quarter. And looking back at the earliest silver versions from 1932 to 1964, one can see how hoarding, melting, and circulation have dramatically reduced the surviving population, especially of well-struck examples with original luster. And as collectors study these older pieces they often discover die polishing lines, weak motto impressions, misaligned dies, and strike doubling that tell stories of production struggles, especially during mass production years when the mint pushed capacity to the limits. And these stories continue into the modern era where billions of quarters circulate yet unique errors still slip out, creating little treasures in pocket change, all while the quarter remains a symbol of American history, evolving technology, and the enduring legacy of George Washington, whose profile, whether in Flanagan classic interpretation or Fraser's long-delayed masterpiece, remains one of the most iconic images in U.S. coinage, representing a journey that spans art, politics, national pride, everyday commerce, and the endless curiosity of collectors who still dig through rolls, jars, drawers, and inherited boxes hoping to uncover something rare, something beautiful, or something forgotten that connects them to a piece of American history preserved in metal. As we continue our deep journey into the extraordinary world of the Washington quarter dollar, the atmosphere shifts from history and design into the thrilling and unpredictable territory of rarities, minting anomalies, hidden treasures, and the high-value coins that turn ordinary pocket change into unbelievable discoveries. And to understand why certain Washington quarters are worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, we need to dive into the delicate and often chaotic minting process, where a single microscopic mistake, a slight misalignment, a worn master hub, or even a rushed polishing job can transform a coin into a numismatic legend, and collectors love the Washington Quarter series because it is absolutely packed with these anomalies. Some rare, some mysterious, and some so subtle that you could hold a coin in your hand for years without realizing you're holding a small fortune. Starting with the king of all early Washington Quarter rarities, the 1932 D and 1932 S quarters, which were produced in extremely small numbers because the mint did not originally intend to continue quarter production after the Washington commemorative design debut, and this low mintage created a perfect storm for rarity, with the 1932 D having just 436,800 struck and the 1932 S only slightly more at 408,000, making them the two key dates that every collector desperately wants, and these coins become dramatically more valuable if they appear in high grades with full detail. In the eagle's wings and Washington's hair, and while these mint-marked treasures dominate early collectors' lists, many people underestimate the tremendous value hidden in high-grade examples of common dates, especially those from the 1940s and 1950s, where a Washington quarter struck in brilliant uncirculated condition with full luster can be worth far more than anyone expects, especially when struck on 90% silver planchets that show beautifully frosted devices and mirror-like fields due to early die states. But when we shift into the world of serious errors, the Washington Quarter series becomes a treasure hunter's paradise, filled with famous double dies, dramatic off-center strikes, clipped planchets, missing clad layers on post-1965 coins, and the extremely rare transitional errors such as the 1965 silver planchet quarter, which should not exist but did slip into circulation, creating one of the most sought-after modern numismatic rarities ever discovered. And this coin is so valuable because 1965 marked the first year the mint removed silver from quarters, switching to the copper-nickel clad composition, yet a few leftover silver planchets accidentally got struck with 1965 dies, producing an error that collectors still fantasize about finding in a random coin roll today. And the same kind of magic appears in 1970 when one of the most mysterious and controversial Washington Quarter errors surfaced. The 1970 S quarter struck over a 1941 Canadian dime. A wild minting blunder that happened when a foreign silver coin somehow ended up in the planchet supply, leading to a quarter that shows remnants of the earlier Canadian design beneath the Washington impression, and this rarity became famous for selling at an astonishing price in the highest recorded auction sales, proving that minting chaos can create unbelievable numismatic artifacts, but moving away from major errors. The Washington Quarter series also contains dozens of double die varieties such as the 1934 double die obverse, the 1943 double die obverse, and one of the most famous, the 1964 D double die obverse, which displays dramatic doubling in In God We Trust and on Washington's profile, and these double dies came from misaligned impressions during the die hubbing process, creating doubled letters, outlines, and shapes that collectors instantly recognize and prize. Yet what makes this series so fascinating is that it also contains extremely subtle but valuable errors like repunched mint marks, RPMs, occurring in the pre-1990 era when mint marks were individually hand-punched into dies, leading to varieties where the D or S mint mark shows traces of being punched more than once, and collectors spend hours studying these details under magnification, uncovering varieties hidden in plain sight. But even more exciting for modern collectors are the dramatic striking errors that occurred during high-speed production years such as broad strikes, off-center strikes, partial collar strikes, missing clad layers, and even wrong planchet strikes where quarters accidentally landed on nickel or cent planchets, causing sharp, lightweight pieces with mis-sized details that instantly become valuable when authenticated. And the Washington Quarter also contains some of the most fascinating die cracks in circulating U.S. coinage, where cracks formed during high stress on aging dies, creating what collectors call spider cracks, lightning cracks, or cud breaks, each of which can dramatically change the appearance of the coin and give it significant collectible premium depending on size and location. And the era of state quarters added even more value discoveries, especially with errors like the 1999 Delaware spitting horse variety caused by a die crack through the horse's mouth, the 2004 Wisconsin extra leaf errors, a famous pair known as extra leaf high and extra leaf low, caused by die gouges that created extra corn husk leaves, and these error quarters became modern legends, leading ordinary people to dig through piles of change searching for that one lucky find. And even beyond state quarters, the Washington Quarter Series continued producing errors in the America the Beautiful program, with examples of double dies, missing clad layers, off-center strikes, and the rare 2019 W quarters, which instantly became collector favorites because they were the first quarters in history struck at the West Point Mint for general circulation, carrying the W mint mark that transformed them into modern rarities worth far more than face value. And with all this excitement, the Washington Quarter remains a magnet for treasure hunters who search coin rolls, estate collections, forgotten jars, and dusty boxes hoping to discover a hidden rarity that could lead to life-changing auction prices where coins like the finest known 1932D, 1932S, and spectacularly preserved silver proofs fetched breathtaking values in major numismatic auctions, showing how an ordinary 25-cent coin can sometimes shock the world with its worth, especially when tied to errors, low mintages, historical significance, or unique production anomalies that draw collectors in with irresistible fascination. As we push further into the world of Washington Quarter rarities, the landscape becomes even more thrilling because the deeper you go, the more you realize how many extraordinary and unexpected varieties the series contains, each one telling its own story about the chaos, pressure, and mechanical imperfections of the mint during different eras. And collectors love this unpredictability because the Washington Quarter gives everyone, from beginners to experienced numismatists, a real chance to discover valuable treasure hiding in the most ordinary places, especially in old rolls, pocket change, inherited jars, and dusty boxes forgotten in attics, where key dates, early silver pieces, and serious mint errors often sit unnoticed for decades, waiting to be found by someone with sharp eyes and a bit of luck. And one of the most incredible aspects of the Washington Quarter market is that many coins that appear totally normal can turn out to be worth huge amounts if they possess unusual qualities like full strikes, original mint luster, strong details, or proof-like surfaces, especially from the 1940s and 1950s when high-quality silver strikes are much rarer than people expect because wartime pressure, die wear, and aging equipment caused many coins to strike weakly, so a brilliantly struck example with crisp hair strands, razor-sharp feathers, and blazing luster can soar in value far beyond typical price guides. And when we move toward modern issues, certain state quarters have proven themselves to be shockingly valuable when found with major errors, such as off-center strikes where the coin's design is visible only on one side, or broad strikes where the missing collar allows metal to expand outward into an oversized, flattened disc that looks completely bizarre, or wrong planchet errors where a quarter is struck on a dime or cent planchet, producing a thin, underweight coin with missing design elements that instantly captures collectors' imaginations. And these wrong planchet errors are some of the most visually dramatic pieces in the entire U.S. error coin market, with unmistakable distortions that make them irresistible to both beginners and seasoned experts. And alongside these spectacular mistakes are the mysterious missing clad layer errors on modern quarters, where one side of the quarter appears copper-colored because the nickel outer layer detached before striking, leaving behind a unique two-tone surface that turns a regular quarter into a highly desirable rarity. And these errors often escape into circulation unnoticed, creating enormous excitement when someone finds one by accident. But even beyond these dramatic examples, the Washington Quarter Series contains countless subtle oddities like die chips that appear in Washington's hair, die clashes that leave ghost-like outlines of the reverse on the obverse, or slight rotations where the reverse is twisted off-axis compared to the front. And these understated imperfections contribute to the complexity of the series, giving collectors endless opportunities to hunt for varieties that many people overlook. And when we look at clad quarters from the 1970s through the 1990s, we find dozens of important double die varieties, especially those involving doubled motto letters or doubled liberty impressions caused by the early multi-hubbing process. And these doubled dies can sometimes command prices far beyond expectations if they show strong doubling on the date or Washington's profile. And stepping into modern collecting, the introduction of the rare 2019 W West Point quarters completely transformed circulation hunting, because for the first time in American history, the mint released low mintage quarters with a W mint mark directly into circulation as part of a deliberate treasure hunt program. And these coins, each with a tiny population relative to today's minting standards, instantly skyrocketed in excitement and value, with people checking every quarter they touched, creating a level of public participation not seen since the first days of the state quarters program. And beyond the West Point excitement, the America the Beautiful series and the American Women Quarter series introduced striking opportunities for collectors to find brand new errors, including off-center strikes, die cracks, retained cuds, and doubled dies that continue to appear even in newly issued rolls, proving that despite modern technology, the minting process remains imperfect in fascinating ways, and this imperfection is exactly what keeps the Washington Quarter Series alive with energy, offering discoveries in almost every decade, from 90% silver masterpieces to modern-clad anomalies, from misplaced metal layers to hand-punched mint mark varieties. And when we examine the auction market, we see spectacular results that shock even experts, such as gem-grade 1932 D and 1932 S quarters achieving record prices, silver proofs from the 1950s selling for massive premiums, 1964 D double dies reaching impressive valuations, rare state quarter errors commanding astonishing bids, and legendary mistakes like the 1970 S quarter struck over a 1941 Canadian coin achieving truly breathtaking amounts in major numismatic sales, and all these dramatic prices prove a simple truth. The Washington Quarter is not just a piece of spending money, but a vast universe of history, mystery, design evolution, mechanical accident, artistic intention, national symbolism, and collector passion wrapped into one of the most widely recognized coins ever minted, making it a series that continues to surprise the world again and again, offering endless opportunities for collectors to discover something rare, something valuable, or something historically profound hiding in plain sight, waiting patiently for someone who knows what to look for. And this is why quarter hunting remains such an addictive and rewarding experience, because every handful of change has the potential to reveal a piece of history or even a life-changing rarity whose value has reached the highest price in major auctions in the world. Continuing deeper into the world of rare, high-value, and extremely desirable Washington quarters, the story becomes even more intense when we explore the hidden patterns that guide collectors toward the most lucrative finds, because after understanding the major key dates, minor varieties, dramatic minting errors, composition changes, and grading thresholds, the final layer of true mastery lies in studying how rarity interacts with eye appeal, strike quality, luster dynamics, die longevity, and the subtle market behavior that pushes one coin from a few $100s to tens of thousands at auction. And this is where the Washington Quarter transforms from a simple American circulating coin into a complex financial asset whose value can rise or fall based on die states, metal flow lines, strike pressure, rim quality, microscopic doubling patterns, and the presence of hidden details like split serifs, die polish lines, or clash marks that only advanced collectors immediately recognize. And the deeper you go, the more you realize that the Washington Quarter has endless layers of complexity, such as the fact that many otherwise common dates have tiny populations in MS-67 or MS-68 because the quarter's relatively large size and high-speed production often caused minor abrasions, bag marks, or transport scratches, meaning that even a coin minted in the tens of millions can suddenly become rare at the very highest condition levels, which is why coins like the 1962 D in MS-67 Plus or the 1964 D in MS-68 command thousands of dollars despite being common in circulated grades. And this is further amplified by proof coins, because proof Washington quarters, especially from the early pre-1960s era, often have astonishing cameo contrast differences, where deep cameo or ultra cameo finishes are drastically rarer due to inconsistent frosting and strike preparation at the mint during those decades, and this dramatically affects prices, leading to situations where a proof 1950 quarter-graded PR-67 might sell for a few $100s, but the exact same year graded PR-67 DCM might explode above 10,000 because only a microscopic number survive with perfect frosted devices and jet black mirror fields. And this becomes even more fascinating when you consider transitional quality periods like the late 1970s and early 1980s when proof cameo quality fluctuated heavily, meaning a PR-70 Deep Cameo 1981 S-Type 2 Washington Quarter can bring massive premiums, and then we move into the realm of special strikes such as SMS coins from 1965, 1966, and 1967, which were produced during the mint's experiment to reduce coin hoarding and stabilize circulation during the silver shortage era, and SMS coins, especially 1966 and 1967 with heavy cameo frost, are extremely valuable when found with high-grade deep cameo finish, reaching several thousands of dollars due to their razor-sharp detail, smooth satin finish, and the fact that only a handful appear with full cameo contrast. And now when we circle back to circulation strikes, we must dive into the lesser discussed but shockingly valuable minting errors found throughout the Washington Quarter series, such as the wildly popular struck-on-wrong planchet errors, where a Washington Quarter may accidentally be struck on a dime planchet, nickel planchet, or even a foreign coin planchet. And examples like a 1970 Washington Quarter struck on a Philippines planchet have sold for over $35,000, while a 1983 P Quarter struck on a copper-nickel-clad dime planchet sold for more than $10,000 because the error is spectacular and visually obvious, showing a missing portion of the design and a noticeably smaller and thinner appearance, and even more dramatic are off-center strikes, full brockages, double strikes, die caps, and saddle strikes which can convert an ordinary Washington quarter into a once-in-a-lifetime collectible worth thousands, especially when they appear on silver-era coins because silver planchets deform differently under pressure, creating unique dramatic shapes. And then we must also highlight the 1970s Washington quarter struck on a silver Canadian planchet, famously auctioned for over $40,000, which remains one of the most talked about mint errors in quarter history, and this leads us into another advanced area that collectors often overlook: the importance of die pair analysis, because early die pairs often exhibit sharper details while late die pairs show signs of die fatigue, such as mushy lettering, weak hairlines on Washington's portrait, fading eagle breast feathers on the reverse, and collapsed inner device structure, all of which significantly impact grade, luster, and value, and the earliest stages of die usage sometimes reveal fascinating anomalies like die polishing lines, micro-doubling, ghostly clash marks from incomplete die repairs, and remnants of previous die states. And some of these markers lead directly to highly sought-after varieties like the 1943 double die obverse or 1964 accented tail feathers, and in the clad era, subtle high-grade varieties such as the 1982 P and 1983 P with exceptionally clean surfaces or unusually strong strikes are extremely desirable due to the notoriously rough minting environment during the early 1980s recession when the mint produced coins under intense speed and pressure, resulting in low survival rates for high-grade examples, which is why the 1982 P and 1983 P can reach thousands in MS-67 and higher. And then of course there is the legendary 1976 Bicentennial series which, while extremely common in circulated condition, becomes incredibly valuable in the highest MS or proof grades, especially Type 1 and Type 2 reverses where cameo quality, luster depth, and die state sharpness determine enormous price variation. And certain bicentennial quarters in MS-68 Plus have fetched eye-opening amounts far beyond what casual collectors expect, and as we dig deeper into the modern state quarter era. Starting in 1999, the explosion of collectors dramatically increased grading submissions, but ironically created a fascinating effect where only a tiny percentage of early state quarters survive in MS-69 or MS-70 due to the fact that the mint was still optimizing die preparation and planchet quality during the transition into the high-polish, high-speed 21st century minting era. And this is why early state quarters like the 1999 P Delaware or 2000 P Massachusetts in MS-69 can bring thousands of dollars at auction, and the proof versions with deep cameo surfaces also vary massively depending on die polishing quality and frosting consistency. And then we enter the America the Beautiful series, which introduced even more dramatic strike variability, making certain MS-69 examples incredibly scarce despite millions of coins produced. And beyond all these factors is the increasing global demand for Washington quarters driven by international collectors fascinated with American coinage history, particularly in regions like Europe and Asia where U.S. silver coins are seen as both historic artifacts and reliable investment pieces. And this global demand combines with a shrinking supply of high-grade silver quarters because many were melted during the 1979 to 1980 and 2011 silver price spikes, permanently reducing the number of pristine coins available and increasing the scarcity of already rare dates. And as we push deeper into era hunting territory, enthusiasts now rely on high-definition microscopes, macro lenses, and specialized LED lighting to detect doubling, repunched mint marks, die chips, retained cuds, and strike-through errors that earlier generations of collectors Washington quarter varieties every year, and these ongoing discoveries continuously reshape the value landscape, proving that even after nearly a century of production, the Washington quarter remains an evolving, dynamic series with endless potential for new finds, new records, and new opportunities for collectors to uncover treasure hiding in plain sight, whether in old coin jars, inherited collections, antique shops, flea markets, or raw coin lots sold online. And this makes the Washington quarter not just a coin but a living history project, a treasure hunt, and an investment vehicle all at the same time. As we continue the deep exploration of Washington quarter rarities, the landscape becomes even more detailed and complex because beyond the widely recognized key dates, famous double dies, high-grade condition rarities, and dramatic planchet errors, the true core of expert-level Washington quarter collecting lies in studying what are known as micro-rarities, subtle distinctions and production anomalies that are so tiny and so easily overlooked that only heavily experienced numismatists can identify them quickly. Yet these micro-rarities can turn an otherwise ordinary quarter into a four-figure or even five-figure treasure depending on grade, demand, and market timing, and what makes this series so endlessly fascinating is the sheer breadth of minting environments it has survived across nearly a full century. Starting from the early Depression-era Philadelphia Mint, which struggled with worn equipment and inconsistent quality control, through the wartime years when metal shortages, increased demand, and equipment fatigue caused frequent die deterioration and weak strikes, all the way to the modern era where automated high-speed presses produce billions of coins with precision but still introduce new categories of die polish lines, mechanical doubling, and planchet imperfections that sometimes create their own valuable varieties. And one of the most exciting aspects of Washington quarter collecting is the dramatic difference between early Silver-era die preparation and the later Clad-era techniques, because in the 1930s and 1940s, dies were hand-polished, hand-hubbed, and frequently repaired manually, which introduced unique features like over-polished eagles with weak tail feathers, various recut mint marks, repunched numbers in the date, and faint traces of earlier hub impressions, while in the Clad era starting in 1965. Dies were more standardized but prone to new forms of deterioration such as die fatigue striations, late-stage metal flow distortion, and mechanical doubling caused by vibrations in high-speed presses, all of which matter to collectors because certain coins from these eras can show exceptionally crisp strikes that stand out dramatically against the majority of weaker examples, and such high-grade survivors in MS-67 or MS-68 often command extraordinary prices because they are literally 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 50,000 specimens. Especially for dates like 1971, D, 1972, D, 1979, P, 1980, P, and 1983, P, which were minted under harsh mechanical conditions that left most coins with heavy contact marks and dull luster, making pristine survivors incredibly rare. And then we move into the advanced study of hub changes, because the Washington quarter design went through numerous subtle modifications over the decades, sometimes official, sometimes unintended, such as alterations to Washington's hair curls, neckline, the eagle's wings, arrow feathers, and lettering thickness, and these minor changes often create collectible varieties that are unknown to new collectors, yet they can fetch impressive premiums when certified by top grading companies, especially when combined with strong strike, clean fields, and full mint luster. And speaking of grading, the importance of eye appeal cannot be overstated because two coins with identical technical grades like MS-66 can differ wildly in market value depending on whether the coin displays radiant cartwheel luster, deep rolling reflections, or a frosty satiny texture. Preferred by many collectors, and superior eye appeal dramatically pushes auction results upward, such as MS-67 Plus silver quarters from the 1950s which regularly surpass $5,000 when they show blazing luster, pinpoint sharp details, and minimal abrasions, while average examples in the same grade may sell for under $700, and when we step deeper into the realm of proof coins, cameo contrast becomes an absolute king of value, especially in the early proof years of 1936 to 1942 and later 1950 to 1963 when the mint did not consistently produce frosted devices, making deep cameo survivors extremely rare, and collectors are often shocked to learn that some 1950s proof quarters in PR68 deep cameo are rarer than many famous gold coins, with populations of sometimes fewer than a dozen known examples. And this type of rarity is amplified further by transitional irregularities such as the 1971 S and 1972 S proof quarters where cameo frost was inconsistent, causing deep cameo examples to be ultra-scarce. And then another layer of complexity comes from special strikes such as SMS, Special Mint Set, coins from 1965 to 67 which exhibit a hybrid finish between regular proof and circulation strikes, and these SMS issues sometimes come with exceptional cameo contrast, producing high-value gems especially in SP67, SP69 deep cameo grades. And when we move into the bicentennial era, we find yet another exciting niche because Type 1 and Type 2 reverses exhibit noticeable differences in lettering sharpness and design clarity, with Type 2 pieces generally being more desirable in the highest grades, and certain bicentennial quarters in MS-68 or MS-69 have achieved eye-popping auction results well into the thousands due to their near-perfect surfaces and booming luster, which stand in stark contrast to the vast majority of circulated or poorly stored bicentennial coins that show heavy wear, toning, and abrasions. And when collectors begin exploring errors within the bicentennial series, they discover dramatic anomalies such as double strikes, off-metal strikes, and partial color errors which are extremely valuable due to the combination of historical significance and visual appeal. And then when we return our focus to the 1990s and early 2000s, the dawn of the 50-state quarter program created a tidal wave of modern varieties and errors that still command huge collector interest today, including rare state quarter double dies, missing clad layers, feeder finger damage patterns, off-center strikes, and coins struck on foreign planchets left in the presses from other minting contracts, and some modern state quarter errors, such as 2004 D Wisconsin Extra Leaf High and Extra Leaf Low, exploded in value, with high-grade examples selling for thousands, proving that valuable Washington quarter discoveries are not limited to early silver dates but continue even in the most recent decades. And then we shift into the America the Beautiful series, which brought new minting techniques and new varieties, including numerous rare high-grade MS-69 survivors that often dominate registry set competition because top collectors aggressively pursue the finest possible examples to complete world-class certified sets, and these registry competitions greatly influence market prices as elite collectors sometimes fight for the highest-graded specimen available, causing prices to skyrocket beyond what the general public might expect. And this effect is especially strong for modern coins where a single MS-69 example can be dozens of times rarer than MS-68, even if millions were minted, because the grading threshold becomes so unforgiving that only a microscopic number survive without imperfections. And then we shift into the world of toning, where beautifully toned Washington quarters, especially silver issues from the 1940s, 50s, and early 60s, can achieve dramatic premiums when they display rainbow arcs, blue-gold rims, fiery magentas or sunset patterns caused by decades of careful album storage, and toned examples with exceptional color can sometimes sell for multiples of their base MS price because advanced collectors view these coins as unique works of art created through slow natural oxidation. And then of course we arrive at the modern marketplace where online auctions, grading resubmission strategies, population updates, and real-time demand analytics constantly change the value landscape and understanding these trends is crucial for maximizing profit, because certain coins surge in value after a population report reveals a lower-than-expected number of high-grade survivors, while other dates drop when new submissions increase the supply of MS-67 or MS-68 examples, making the market a dynamic and evolving ecosystem that rewards knowledge, patience, and timing. And as we reflect on all this, it becomes clear that the Washington Quarter Series remains one of the richest, deepest, and most rewarding coin series in American history, offering endless opportunities for discovery, investment, scholarship, and excitement for collectors of every level, ensuring that even today, nearly 100 years after its first appearance in 1932, the Washington Quarter continues to captivate the world with rarities still emerging from old rolls, estate collections, bank bags, forgotten drawers, and circulation itself, proving that the treasure hunt never truly ends. Thanks for watching.